Hey everyone, welcome back to Wednesday Updates. I'm Susan at the Fossil Cartel. I want to first remind you that we're having our Halloween giveaway contest and we're picking a winner October 29th, which is next week. So if you haven't entered, go ahead and enter. You can win $120 worth of goodies. There's a rose quartz skull, a goldstone bat, an obsidian mirror, and lots and lots and lots of candy. And then I want to congratulate our 420 contest winner from yesterday. That was Crystal Murphy. She guessed correctly that it was black tourmaline, and most of you also guessed correctly, so good job, and thanks for playing along. She's going to win that piece of black tourmaline I held up, and if you're not familiar with it, we do it once a month at every fourth Tuesday of the month at 4:20. It's another way of getting stoned at the Fossil Cartel. Okay, so today I'm so excited because we have a special guest. I'm going to interview Ann Allen, who is an advanced grief recovery specialist and Reiki master/teacher. She is an advocate for real and honest recovery from grief, loss, and finding joy in living again. She has a very unique approach by using very specific steps, not therapy, and optional Reiki energy support. So it sounds like what she does is very unconventional from what normal people do, that gets her clients unstuck and back into their lives again. Okay, so Ann, come on over. This is Ann. Say hi.
Hi. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for inviting
Oh,
me.
my
Susan.
pleasure. It's great to have you. And you'll notice that Ann has a little bit of an accent. And where are you from, Ann?
From New Zealand,
She's
originally.
from New Zealand. I love accents.
27 years ago.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yay. Okay. So let's start with the basics. Hi, Joe. Thanks for watching. And oh, yes, please ask any questions you want because we have her here live. And if you miss us live, you could always ask in the comments, and I'm sure Ann will answer after the fact. So,
Oh, absolutely.
great.
Yeah.
So let's start with the basics. So can you talk about what loss is?
Oh gosh, okay. Well, to keep it simple, loss is really something that happens to us when we have a change in or end of a familiar behavior or pattern related to a person, place, or thing. So that's a very long-winded definition, but when you think about that, you can see that it would be more than what we normally consider death. As a lot of people are thinking death is the main kind of loss, but there's a whole lot more. There's over 42 different kinds of losses that we can
Wow,
actually.
that's a lot. I never realized that.
No, it surprises a lot of people.
Huh.
Yeah.
And then how would you just define grief?
Well, grief is actually the normal and natural reaction we have to any loss that's significant to us. So, I jokingly say, if you've lost your car keys, you've all felt grief over that, and panic, of course. But any time that we have something that's taken away from us or changed that's significant to us, we are going to grieve over it.
And I'm sure there's different degrees and levels of grief, depending on how big of a loss.
That is a really good thing that you bring up, and this is a good time to explain that. Every relationship we have is unique. There's absolutely no exception. So what we're finding is that if you, I'll give you an example. So the day that my mother died, my brother's mother died. What does that mean? Same woman. Lorna was her name. Hi, Mum. My mother, my brother's mother. But do you think we both grieved in the same way, or do you think it was different?
I think it was different.
Exactly. So no two people are going to grieve the same way for their loss, even if it's a family member or a pet, someone like that. It's always going to be different and unique. And that's what we have to remember and bear in mind.
True, very true.
It's a good way to support people.
And we probably all deal with it differently too.
We do, definitely. We all have our own way, and some people, it's what we call short-term energy releasing behavior. So can you think of something that you've done yourself that you've done when you've been grieving or in an upset state that's made you feel better? Anything come to mind?
Crying a lot.
For me,
releasing my tears.
Yeah. What about food? What about alcohol? What about retail therapy?
Taking a walk in nature.
Yeah, exactly. All of those things will make us feel a little bit better for a while, but then we come back to the broken heart.
Mm-hmm. So what are some of the myths that have developed around
Oh my gosh.
them?
Well, I'm sure you've heard of all of them. So there's just give it time. So what are we thinking about with time? Well, a lot of people are going to say something like, well, don't worry, you'll get over your partner, you'll be married again in 2 years, something like that. Or, you know, it just takes time before you heal. Be strong for others. Well, why should you have to be strong for others? You can barely be strong for yourself when you have a grieving heart, right? Keep busy. Well, unfortunately, I'm not kidding, but people have actually died keeping busy. Yeah. Replace the loss. What does that look like? Well, let's say we've got an unfortunate situation where the family pet has died. So what do? Parents want to go down to the pound, get another dog or another cat to replace it because they don't want the kids running around dealing with how each one of them is reacting. So replace the loss is a big one. And those are some of the main myths that will come up without grieving all the time. And they come from people not understanding how to talk or how to relate to people who are grieving.
And what are some of the biggest mistakes that people make about grief when somebody's grieving?
We try to fix them. We try to fix people when they're grieving, and it's a natural thing. So let's say you just got some bad news. Let's just say for one reason or other you just found out that someone or something very precious to you has gone. So what's the first thing I'm going to do? I'm going to reach out and I'm going to try and make you feel better. So what are some of the things that you've heard people say to try and make others feel better? What could you think of?
Sorry for your loss.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's genuine and it's heartfelt. You know, don't say it if you don't mean it.
Personally, I have a really hard time. Like, I never know what to say. I'm always at a loss, except for I'm really sorry. Is there anything I can do to help?
And that's beautiful. That's perfect. But here's the thing, guys. Please don't offer help if you're not sincere, because you all know when you're being lied to. You know when people aren't sincere. And it really doesn't help, because right now their heart is probably broken. And even though you mean well, you're trying to make them feel better, but you're really not, and it's really going to hurt them. And I was unfortunately at a funeral yesterday for a very good friend of mine who passed away unexpectedly, and I was just standing there and just really listening to what people were saying to each other, and it was just exactly that. They were trying to help this person feel better about their loss, and saying, oh, you know, it'll just take time, you'll feel better in time. Same old thing, because we don't know what else to say.
So what do we say?
Very good question. Well, let me ask you, I'll answer that with a question. What would you like to be told if you had just lost something that's really important to you?
I guess just that I'm really sorry. And there's a Jewish saying that says, may his memory be a blessing. And I guess that's a cool thing to say.
Well, it might be. But
except for if it wasn't a blessing. I mean,
if someone's not Jewish, or if someone had an untimely death, and it's really hard. It's like, well, what do we say? You know, how do we really express? And I'm going to tell you guys, the best thing you can do is not say anything if you really don't feel it and you really don't mean it.
Just, I'm sorry.
If you have a heartfelt, I'm sorry. That's just, let that be okay. And you know what? It's also really okay to say, I don't know what to say. I know that sounds silly, but people are going to respond better to that than, may I touch you? Oh my gosh. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, that's just, I mean, how does that make you feel? It doesn't make you, it's not genuine, right? But if I say, wow, Susan, I don't know what to say. I just met you, but I'm sorry, I don't know what to say there. It's far more heartfelt. I'll give you a funny story. So when my mum died, I went home to New Zealand and came back after the funeral, and I was driving along and I got rear-ended. And I thought, because I was in a fog, and this is a common thing when people are grieving, they're in a fog, they're out of the space in their head. And so I took my car to the mechanic to get it checked over, and I said, well, you know, just home burying my mom, and I don't know, someone just rear-ended me. Can you please just, you know, check my car? And he came back and he said, yeah, you know, your car's okay. I said, okay. And he said, oh, so your mum died, huh? And I said, yeah. And he said, bummer.
Oh.
But you know what? It was honest, and he didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
He was uncomfortable. And this is the thing, grief makes us very uncomfortable. It's very, very inconvenient, and it takes us out of our comfort zone, and that's why so many of us don't know what to say. There's that awkward silence that we feel we have to fill in, so we're just going to trot out old, worn-out cliches that really don't do anything, but they actually have a harmful effect. They can make people isolate even more.
That's good to know. Thank you. So what is recovery? What does it look like, and how how does that show up in somebody's life? How does that play out?
That's a really great question. So a lot of people will say, well, I can't get over the loss of fill in the blank. Or I can't even imagine my life without this person. And sure, I can relate to that, definitely. What recovery really means is that, well, I'll give you another example. So my birthday's coming up on Sunday. Now, my mum's not alive anymore, so I'm not going to get that birthday card. I know I'm not going to get that birthday card, and it hurts. I miss my mum. But the thing is, when my birthday comes, I know I'm not going to get the card. I'm going to have a normal, natural feeling of, where's my mom? I want my mom. But the idea of recovery is that instead of taking me down that rabbit hole into feeling negative and pain and all of those emotions attached with it, I've dealt with that, and now I can feel the loss, feel the sadness, and move on to the next thing of the day. So in a nutshell, that's what recovery is, being able to have normal, natural reactions without the pain and the heartache attached to them.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about bringing this down a little bit because I think your mouth is getting tight.
Oh, okay.
Let's see. Oh yeah, that's much better.
Well, some people might think that's a good thing.
No. No. That's much better. Okay.
Okay.
Good. Okay. So I mentioned that Anne works in an unconventional way. How is your work different than regular recovery therapists?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you for calling me unconventional, because that really is my middle name, for those of you who know me. But what I do, I hold very strictly to what I was taught, which is the grief recovery method, and that is certain steps that we just don't deviate from because it's brilliant. It's been working for 40 years, literally helped millions of people, so we don't deviate from that. But when I have finished that session with my people, then we get into the energy side, if that's what they choose. They don't have to, but I always recommend it. 99% of my patients, sorry, not patients, I used to be an RN, I still got to get that out of my mouth, sorry. 99% of my clients, they love the energy work because it helps them to feel grounded, it helps them to find the balance. And truly, when you do energy work, the whole idea is that you create a compassionate space for people where they really can find their own balance, and it's in that balance that they find their peace and their healing.
Great. So how do you use Reiki and energy work when you're helping someone recover from grief?
Well, as any Reiki practitioner will know, we have different symbols that we can use, and depending on the person, I will start off with a symbol, and then I'm very more organic. I follow whatever I'm really being guided to do intuitively. So I have an array of crystals and stones, and I have Tibetan singing bowls and chimes and things, and whatever I'm basically led to is what I use. So I will get like a calling, I guess you could say. They call me over and tell me which stone wants to, and I pick it up and bring it over and give it to you, or I place it in your hand and then place that part on your body. Whatever I'm drawn to do, basically.
Cool.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're somewhat intuitive. I mean, you have to be intuitive in order to do that. Did you always feel you were like somewhat psychic / intuitive when you were growing up?
Yeah, probably since I was a little girl. And like most kids, you know, people don't believe, or you just know instinctively. You don't talk about certain things to adults because they look at you like you're crazy. But but yeah, it was something that grew more and more over the years. And when I was about 32, I just saw things and felt things that I didn't really feel comfortable, so I shut it all down until a few years ago when I got a tap on the shoulder, like, time to open up again. So, cool. Yeah.
So for our listeners that aren't familiar with Reiki, can you just explain what it is?
Oh, sure, yeah. So without getting into quantum theory, and which I wouldn't really know what I was talking about anyway, but if you can think of, you know Star Wars, right? The Force? Mm-hmm. Okay, so the Force is the energy, it's the glue, it's the universal glue that holds everything together, keeps our atoms spinning and separate and everything. So if you think of that energy, and if you think of it in like a power station, so how do we get energy from a power station to our home? through power lines, right? And that comes down into the wall in the shape of an outlet. And to get energy out of that, we have to put a plug in. So if you can imagine, I'm kind of like a plug. I just plug into that outlet, and then I become a conduit for that energy.
Cool, that's a great explanation.
Yeah, it helps. But well, yeah, it took me a while to figure out how to. Sorry,
It's okay.
bumping things. It took me a while to figure out a best way to explain it, but that seems to be the way that works for people.
That's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So John said he just lost his sweetie. I'm sorry, John.
Oh, John, I'm very sorry.
And Jean said she lost her mom. And I can't see it.
I'll let you read that.
Yeah.
I don't have my glasses.
In August, I've used stones and crystals. Reiki is something I'm not too familiar with. Okay, Jean. She wasn't familiar with the Reiki, but she's used crystals and helping her recover from her grief.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, here's the thing, Jean. You don't have to use Reiki, dear. It's something that I use. I use the catchphrase Reiki, but really it's just energy work. It's whatever comes in that I use. And it's just another modality. So whatever you're doing, so long as you're getting peace and comfort from it, that's the most important thing. And if any of our viewers want to give the names of the people that they lost, we'd be very happy to read them out so we can honor them, if you'd like that.
Great. Cool. And you talked about using crystals in your work. So we were talking earlier about the kinds of crystals that Anne uses in her work. And so I brought over a couple. For instance, rose quartz is a great heart stone, healing energy stone for recovery.
Yeah, it's very maternal, and I have a piece, or probably about 2/3 the size of that, sitting on my table where I see my people, and it just has a very calming effect. And here's the thing: you don't have to know anything about crystals. You don't have to know anything about anything. If you're drawn to it, trust your intuition. We're all born with intuition. None of us, well, maybe some of us have a few extra gifts, perhaps, but everybody can do this. But whatever you feel drawn to when you walk into a store, just go to it, because that's the one that's right for you.
That's what we tell people too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, good. We're all on the same page.
Yes, her name is Alice. Okay.
Well, let's honor Alice. Hello, Alice. Thank you for
John says his sweetie's name was Sherry Luna.
Sherry Luna. Hello, Sherry Luna. Beautiful name. Beautiful name.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes, thank you.
And this is manganocalcite, which is another one that Anne says she uses. It's got a great buttery, soft feel.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love the way that you say buttery, because I have a small piece. I don't know if I can show you this. It's a little tiny square kind of thing, about half the size of that, and it looks just like a pat of butter. Yeah, it really does. So what you say describes it beautifully. Yeah.
And then she said she uses the fairy stones too.
They're just adorable. I have this little one that looks just like an infant, actually.
Oh, neat. Yeah, they're all so different.
Yes, they are.
And is yours all darker? Because after you handle it a while, the oils from your skin rub off and get it a little shinier and darker. Even just the little bit I did right now, you can see it's a little bit darker and shiny.
It's like that patina on a leather bag or shoes.
Exactly. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and there's other stones that I use too, and it just depends what I'm being called to use for them. So, and as I was discussing with Susan, I don't claim to be a geologist, so some of the stones I don't know the names of them, but whatever they tell me they want me to use, that's what I use, and that's what works for people.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
We get and this is something that any Reiki practitioners or energy workers out there will know what I'm talking about. We often let our ego get in the way, and we really can't afford to do that. We just have to go with the flow and see what it is that our people need and give them that.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So what is something that you'd like our listeners, what can they do right now to help themselves with where they're at with their grief?
That's a really, really good question.
Oh, wait, let's see what John says here. I can't get enough rose quartz since she passed, and Tiger's Eye, which was her favorite.
Oh,
nice.
Two beautiful stones.
What was the sphere? Oh, hi, Tammy. It was manganocalcite. That's the sphere. It's this one. Manganocalcite.
Very
pink,
soft,
buttery with white banding.
Very maternal, very nurturing. Yeah, because as you can imagine, the people who come to me, they've usually got a broken heart, or they're suffering very much. So that's a really wonderful stone to have those lovely energies from. So sorry, now what was the question you asked?
Sorry. What's
what
something our listeners could do right now?
Right.
To help
Okay.
them?
So please, first of all, avoid calling yourself broken. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You have a broken heart. That's what's probably broken. So please get rid of that terminology. There's truly nothing wrong with you. All of those feelings that you're having, even the murderous rage, and don't go out and do it. Okay, I mean, I'm on live Facebook here, and I'm telling you, please don't go and hurt anybody. In fact, I'd like to just talk about that very quickly at the end. But any feeling that you have of wanting to, to be angry or to pull back or to not want to show, whatever you're feeling is normal and natural. Please understand that. So meet yourself wherever you are and be okay with that, and don't be judging yourself, and be gentle with yourself. Just really be gentle with yourself. This is a tough time. Nobody wants to have to go through grief. You don't wake up in the morning saying, oh, I think I'll go through grief today. That doesn't happen. It usually comes and slaps us up the side of the head quite unexpectedly a lot of the time. So be gentle with yourself and do the best you can to take care of yourself, because a lot of the times we're walking around in a fog and we really don't know where we are or what we're doing. So we have to be safe as well, and that's a very real thing. So those are the main things. Meet yourself where you are, be gentle with yourself, and understand you're not broken, but you probably are going to need some help somewhere along the way.
Nice. Gentle is the word I picked for myself for the year.
Oh, good.
Gentle with myself.
Yeah, that's a really lovely word.
Yeah.
Really lovely word.
So what would you like our listeners to walk away with from our talk today?
Please don't try and fix people, okay? It's very easy. Like I said, again, we have that empty space where we just want to jump in because silence is uncomfortable. So please don't try and fix them. Just understand that they're in a different place than you are. Okay, they're in a totally different place than you are, and half the time these people couldn't even remember their names if you ask them. They're in a totally different reality. But here's the other side of that coin too. If you're supporting somebody who is grieving, you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself so you can help them, because grief is completely unpredictable a lot of the times. It's very messy. And it's very inconvenient. It's not what we choose. So take care of you so you can take care of somebody else. And please, just be a heart with ears. If you can do that, if you can step out of your comfort zone long enough to just listen and not have to say anything, which is really tough, I know. But if you can do that, you're going to be awesome at helping somebody get over that.
Beautiful, beautiful. And you want to say something about the murders?
I do, yes. There are some cases where people will feel like they want to hurt themselves or hurt others. Obviously, that's a 911 call. Please do not ever underestimate that. That's extremely critical. If you are unsure, and people always say, well, why would I ask them this? Well, you ask them this for a reason. If you're unsure if somebody is feeling that way, you are going to ask them, do you have a plan? And if they say yes, that's a 911 call. If you're not sure, if your spidey sense tells you something, please call 911. There is a national suicide hotline number, and I think Susan would be okay if we post that after this so you have it. You can also go to NAMI. I can give you the website for that as well to get information. Suicide is the second most prevalent cause of death in this country, and we have to be aware of it, and they often don't show any signs that we would even know they're thinking that way. So just like to put that in there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I want to see if anybody has any other questions. It looks like somebody said something there. Hey, oh, that was Tammy. Thank you, Tammy. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Oh, it's Joy. I need glasses too. Sorry.
Oh. They're not close by.
Jot Luna? Joy Luna? Well, thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Anne, so much. I really appreciate it. This was awesome.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate being here and spreading the word. I love to educate people about grief.
Excellent. And we'll put her website in the comments too, as well as the other resources. So have a great rest of your day, everyone, and I'll check in with you next week. Cheers.
Bye-bye.